Welcome to Bloom with Tina and Kelsey, the podcast that empowers women to be true to themselves in every aspect of their lives. Are you ready to break free from society's expectations and embrace your true self? Each week, we dive into our own inspiring, powerful personal stories and from incredible women and a few lucky men who have dared to challenge the norm and carve out their own paths to happiness. Here we celebrate courage, resilience, and authenticity as we share the stories of those who have transformed their lives and blooming into the best versions of themselves. Join us. Let's empower one another and spread the seeds of positivity and inspiration. Ready to bloom? Let's get on with the episode.
Welcome to Bloom with Tina and Kelsey. Today we have Coach Rhonda Williams here, also known as Rhonda on a Mission. I met Rhonda through Patrice Washington's group Mastery and Momentum. Actually, even before we were both in Mastery and Momentum, we met at the live events down in Atlanta last fall. So we connected over lunch one afternoon and then ended up in Mastery and Momentum together and learned a lot about what each of us is doing in our current journey of entrepreneurship, passion projects, all the things. Yes. So thank you so much, Rhonda, for joining us today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for the invite and always an opportunity to share my story, my mission, the vision that I have. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, of course. One of the things that has stuck out to me on your mission is the shift that you had. So you started in finance as well.
Yeah.
And shifted into becoming a coach and not just not even a financial coach, into becoming a health coach, a wellness coach.
Yeah.
So take us back to the beginning of that shift and what created the shift for you to open up for the new path.
Yeah, when I started as a financial educator. I moved into financial counseling and financial coaching. And so that really kind of started it, because in the education and counseling piece, I could always see it was so much more than the money, right? And you already know this, right?
Yeah.
I could always see the person behind the money, the person behind the decisions, the person behind the actions or inactions, it often is. And I was so much more interested in that. So when I was introduced to the opportunity to become a financial coach, to enter into coaching that way, I was like, ooh, yeah. And I remember going to the training, and the training was done by women who were coaches in the world, but they were just part of the program that was teaching financial people how to coach. So when I met them, I was like, wow, these are my people. They were woo-woo. They were all about the possibilities. They were all about the gray area. I was like, I am home.
Yeah.
So that really introduced me into coaching. And so from there, I expanded into executive and personal development coaching. And now I've used this framework most of my coaching career, but now I see such a connection with health and, health, wealth, all the things. And I have to expand it, right? We're here to help people. And when I see it's such a deep connection, it only makes sense for me. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's good. So you have navigated your own health journey. Talk to us about what that looked like for you when you decided to start really taking ownership of your health.
Yeah. Honestly, I actually felt that I was taking ownership the entire time, but here's the shift. So with my career, my resume, the personal development coach, executive coach, coaching with people at all tiers of success, right? High performers, and a success by a lot of measures myself, by resume, but always had this struggle with my health, my weight, chronic inflammation, low energy, and weight loss resistance. And so that's always been there. I've always kind of just been chipping away at it over the years. Is so I said that to say it was not for a lack of trying. It was not for a lack of wanting it bad enough. Because sometimes we get told, well, you're not disciplined enough, you're not trying enough. For me, it turned out to be very much finding the right path, finding what I now call real health answers. Because we often are seeking answers in our health, especially in midlife, and we are getting ignored. We're still left in the dark. And so I kept chipping away at it. Life kept changing. Menopause came in like a wrecking ball, and it really flipped everything upside down. I really got to this tipping point about a little bit over 2 years ago where I was at the highest weight I had been in my whole life, out of gas, out of hope, out of inspiration. And at that moment, I just reached for the only thing I could with the ounce of hope that I had. And I went back to my basics, my toolkit, as I call it. But I started back moving a little bit more, drinking my water. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do a fast. For fasting for me has always been a tool to help bring my appetite back down, kind of level out the inflammation just a hair, and just give me a little extra bandwidth, if you will. And so at the time when I did that, I ran up on a church that I follow, and they were entering into their annual Daniel fast. And I can explain what that is if you're not familiar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that basically, didn't even know it. I did it for like 45 days before I knew it was actually plant-based eating. It just didn't connect right. But that actually opened the door to the path for me that changed everything. Yeah.
Wow.
Can you explain the Daniel fast for us? Sure. So the Daniel fast basically is a 21-day fast. It's based on a personality in the Bible where Daniel, I believe he was captured and he came from his homeland where he had certain disciplines and beliefs and traditions. And instead of going along with the king's meal or how they wanted people to behave and eat, they said, well, look, we really want to stick to what we know and give us a shot. You know, if you, and I'm really making it very elementary, right?
Right.
If you let us eat according to what we know to be true for ourselves, we promise we'll be better, we'll be stronger, we'll be faster. And they let them do that, and they were. So now a lot of communities use it as an annual reset to kind of reconnect to themselves, kind of pull away from some of the eating that we normally air quotes do as a reset. So for 21 days, the basics of it is pulling away from processed food, meat, and dairy, and primarily eating whole food, plant-based, which is fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, beans, whole food. And again, and when I looked at it, I was like, you know, I fasted off and on. You know, I've fasted several times with different churches. I don't remember giving up all these things at one time, but I was so out of gas. Someone who typically overthinks things, I made a decision to not overthink and to just jump in. And that decision opened the door to a transformation I could not have imagined. But yeah.
Yeah. So talk to me about what that transformation looked like and felt like.
Yeah. So, you know, I would say the first probably 7 towards 10 days, of course, I was feeling some relief, right? Because I'm moving away from a lot of the drama in terms of food. And so I'm feeling some relief. The bloat's going away a hair. And I'm feeling better, but I'm not super impressed because remember, I've struggled with weight and dieted my entire life. So I'm like, okay. But it just so happens again, and nothing just happens. At the same time, I ended up on some YouTube videos that talked about how food is being ultra processed in ways we haven't imagined, the evolution of food and the process of food, the way they're raising food now, that has changed so much that it's actually sort of wreaking havoc on our health, right? Particularly in the U.S. standard American diet. And so, whereas I knew a lot about this because I've been on the health journey quite some time, it just kind of, it sounded different. You know, it just hit me really different this time. And I was like, And so as YouTube, the algorithm started feeding me more videos. And I knew that was feeding me, but I was like, ooh, I was just grabbing it. I was just learning.
And so that's why so it talked about the negative things that's happening with standard American, and then on the flip side, it talked about the power of whole food plant-based eating to reverse disease, to reverse symptoms, to like and I was just like, "What?" I mean, all these testimonies after testimonies, weight loss, reversing diabetes, reducing heart disease symptoms, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
So think about it. I'm accidentally on a plant-based diet, and then I'm being fed these videos that tell me all this data that can be researched, testimony after testimony. And so it was somewhere in there where I was like, "Wait a minute, this is different." And so I would say after about almost 2 weeks, I was kinda like, I'm impressed because it's different. My body's losing differently. The inflammation's dropping differently. The weight, way my body's even transforming, it's different. And so again, I just started to put these pieces together, and slowly I was like, "Oh," like all the things I tried, all the things that I was kinda walking right around the solution. And I know it's because it's mindset, the way we think about food in the US, the way we think
Yeah.
what's normal and what because things that I've been doing that are healthy, people are always like, "Well, what are you doing now? Well, why are you doing that?" Right?
Yeah.
So, I'm just walking around the solution. Never would I have thought that something so simple, something what I call hidden in plain sight, could have such a transformation on myself and so many people. And that's why I'm so inspired to spread, to raise awareness.
Yeah. This reminds me very much of the conversation we just had last week about how we become so disconnected from
Yeah.
our food, and we've put all these layers between ourselves
Mhm.
and the food we're consuming.
Right.
And what you're talking about is taking whole foods that we know where they're grown, we know where they're processed in a
Right.
their manner, um, to dramatically shift our health, our own
Mhm.
health. Uh,
Yeah.
so what was the hardest part of making that change? Because I imagine finding the food
Mhm.
to even be challenging.
Yeah. Um, honestly, I could say that the most challenging part is the mindset
Mhm.
because, um, how I think about food, the environment that I'm in. Even engaging, like I say, with people, with friends and family, taking on the unintentional pressure of answering questions or trying to justify the things that you're doing, that was probably, in hindsight, probably the toughest parts. Because when I think about it, as I move forward, I didn't know what I was doing. So I was just kinda figuring that out here and figuring out, "Oh, I feel better." Because at first when the first 21 days was over, because it's only 21 days, I was afraid to stop because I felt so good and I didn't wanna go back. And so I
Mhm.
kept going, but I just kept figuring it out, not even still knowing that I was finally on the right path. I just knew it was working and I felt better and I didn't wanna stop. So
Yeah.
going forward, it was tough because it was new, but it wasn't as tough because I was clueless. But again, some for me, like to me, at times that tougher part was dealing with my mindset, things like as I start to really realize there was no going back. Like this had to
Yeah.
be the path because it just changed my life. And so there's food still in my freezer, and I'm like, well, what am I gonna do with this food? Because I can't waste food, right?
Right.
I hear, and I wrote in my book, I hear someone's grandma's voice in my head, like, you can't food, you gotta eat all the stuff, right?
Right.
Um, Having to throw away stuff and change over my pantry because I had to create an environment that was gonna support me. Um,
Mhm.
Coming up with sound bites to explain myself. And I don't feel like I have to, but when people would ask me, I would sort of stumble like, "Oh, I'm sort of trying this no meat thing, and yeah, I'm just gonna." So eventually, I had to sit with myself, do a little journaling, come up with a sound bite, like, "Yeah, I'm just moving away from meat for a little bit."
Yeah.
and just take it to like, you don't have to explain. And not that they told me to, but we have sometimes that mindset, that unconscious obligation to feel like we want to explain. And I feel like people, we need things to fit in a box that we understand. So people are like trying to put like, oh, you're vegan. Oh, you're this. No, I'm just a girl trying to figure her life out. That's all.
Yeah, I can imagine going like out to eat with somebody or over to somebody's house for dinner becomes a lot more challenging.
Right. It did. But I'm
Ye-
good at it now.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. So, um, what has helped you become more confident in that?
Yeah. And so, as people started to ask me over and over again as a coach and a trainer, I'm like, if you ask people, more than 3 people ask me, I'm writing it down. I'm not going to keep repeating myself, right? So I started to keep notes. And and then eventually I made a joke to my family about the book. I was like, oh, the book will be out next year. You guys can buy the book. And they kept asking for the book. And so I was like, let me sit down and write like a little ebook. It ultimately turned into a whole book. But as I began to look at my notes and write, I realized that I'm a coach. I'm paid to help people reach their greatest, highest potential. Like, this is no different, right? So I just really was able to use my lived and my professional experience as a coach, because everything I do takes this positive psychology behavior perspective, because there's no shortage of information and strategies and tips. The disconnect is us getting around ourselves, figuring out a path forward that works for us based on the information, right? Because it's not a cookie cutter. We're not cookie cutter people, right? And so I actually end up using my framework for myself and just kind of tweaking it a little as I learn more. So in that, number one is clarity. So it's always having a process where I come back and check in with myself, right? To get clear, to get re-clear, see how I've evolved, what have I learned, right? So we're turning back to that. Number two is now optimal health, right? I realized that having optimal health, it's not that I didn't, but now that I'm experiencing it and even more, I'm like, wow, this changes everything, right? So bringing that in is a huge piece. And then, getting into bold and decisive action. We can think about it, we can pray about it, we can journal, we can phone a friend, but at the end of the day, we have to be in some type of action. And action can sometimes be non-action. Like, you know what? I'm not going to do that anymore. Right? So my long story
Yeah.
is, I use my lived and professional experience as a coach, my frameworks on myself. That's how I do all of my work. It comes to me first before I'm working with clients in it. But yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
So how long have you been eating this different way?
Yeah, we're right at about almost 2.5 years now.
Okay. And
Yeah.
what has the biggest challenge been for you?
I would say at this point, I can say the biggest challenge is settling into this new lifestyle, right? Because I would say like the first year of the journey where I lost the initial 60 some odd pounds, I was just kind of figuring it out along the way. So again, I was sort of clueless on this journey, right? So it worked. And then the second year, it was about maintaining it, right? And really settling in, like, who am I becoming now? What are my new routines? What's my new rewiring? And so honestly, that at this point has been the toughest part, because the old patterns are still out there somewhere, right? And so it's for me to work and continue to realign, reintegrate, and figure out what's my new wiring. What is my environment? What's the maximum thing I can do to my environment to support myself, right? And so that at this point is, and I say the toughest part, but that is currently what's being worked through me. I'm trying to like look at it positively. That's the piece that I'm working through now. But yeah.
So what are your greatest rewards from doing this?
Yeah. I will say, and I literally have to close my eyes every time I say it, the joy. Like, I remember in my journal, my prayer journal, my journal, like I would write for years. I want to be happy. I want to be joyful. I want to feel free. And that joy piece, I would have moments of joy. Not that I was walking around just sad all the time, but that wellspring, that internal joy, I could only tap into it periodically. And the level of joy and creativity, just my brain is back. And even better, like bright ideas, inspiration. Like 2.5 years ago, I was sitting around like I'm just doing what I'm doing, waiting on change, right? But now I am just out here and just on fire and excited. So I would say the joy first and foremost, and the level of creativity 10x for sure.
Yeah.
No brain fog, right?
Yeah.
Information's upon.
Right. What I'm saying now is menopause be damned. Okay, but yeah, the bloat when, if you see my book cover, the heavier picture, and I don't have one with me right now. It is, I sent that to my nutritionist. Like, what is happening? Right? Because I was never small, but I never had this menopause, this huge belly, right? And so the menopause belly, the bloat, the inflammation, the low energy, the brain fog is out of here. The energy's back in the building. I told menopause, get somewhere and sit down, like all the things, no hot flashes, all the things. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of times we start this journey because we want to change the way our body looks. And I think we can envision a different way our body looks. It's harder to envision having that much more energy.
Yeah.
But then that ends up being the thing that you're like, oh, this is what it could be.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can't even imagine it until you've experienced it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I hear you, sister. I want to point out too that you mentioned you saw a nutritionist. I just went to Ginger Jalik, nutritionist myself, and you just learn so much about yourself and the things that you need to change. So this is great. I love hearing your story.
Yeah.
Especially of the wins that you've overcome, and finding what works for you. Because everybody is different, N does not equal 1.
Right. I love that. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So now you've coached yourself through this process. Now you're coaching others through a similar process, but also acknowledging it's an individual journey. So talk to me about how you're working with clients to coach them through their own journey.
Right. So right now I have a couple. I have a free course that I have another course that's that was not free, but it's like at your own pace, kind of a quick starter. And then what I'm putting together, we're launching next month actually, is a course. It's like a 30-day quick start program. And so what we'll work with is in the book, I call it my ultimate code for success. And so that is getting real with food, number one. And that's a lot of re-educating, like really understanding, hey, this thing is different. We've got to stop, drop, and read the room. Okay, something strange is happening here, right? Secondly, it is reducing the processed food, meat, and dairy, even as for a temporary period, because we need to see, and our bodies need to be able to reset. We got to kind of remove some things so our bodies can get back in alignment and begin to do what it was always created to do. Next, it is getting 10x the nutrients that you need. And so I did that largely by juicing. And, obviously the whole food is a lot more than nutritious than the processed food, right? But the bottom line is we're just not getting what we need from food anymore, the way it's processed and grown. So getting back to the basics, starting to get the nutrients that we need, giving yourself a digestive break, and that's a level of fasting that could just be intermittent fasting. It could be, I did a juice fast for about 20 days, That could be water, fasting, broth, whatever is going to work, but figuring out that together, what that could look like for you. And really that mindset piece. So that's kind of my basic formula. And we're launching next month a 30-day quick start program where they'll get the book, they'll get the course, they'll get me, and we'll actually walk hand in hand through it for about 30 days to help people kind of really, because it feels scary when you're coming from standard American diet and everything you think you know to be true about food. It feels weird. What are you talking about, Rhonda? That worked for you. I don't know about me. So I want to be able to walk with people through that. But yeah.
Yeah. Do you anticipate, or do you know if this will be the 30-day quick start will be one-on-one or a group?
It's a group. It is a group.
It's
a group program. Yep.
Okay. Very cool. I think that there's power in a group because you have that accountability, that camaraderie.
Yes.
And you're all like the energy within a group helps people keep pushing through some of the harder stuff that they're dealing with.
Yeah, community is everything. And, like I say, part of what I do for a living is train. And I always say, it's not about me being the talking head. Yeah, I have a story, I have a strategy for you, but everybody in this room has something to offer. And we want to collaborate, partner, and learn together and grow together for sure.
Yeah,
that's really exciting.
It is.
That's really neat. I love that idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But so with this group, does it include juicing as a fast also, or is it?
It can. And so what I do is I share what I've done. I share, because remember, the first one is like really, part of it is really get educating, right? So I lay out, and one of the first things I do is lay out explaining what has happened, because people have always asked me, what do you do, what you eat, what you don't eat? And that's the strategy. But if you don't understand the context, why the ultimate code is the code, then people tend to clock out, right? And so first it's really letting you understand what's happening, why this path is leading home, right? And then from there, part of it is really laying out the pieces, the formula, and then testing and trying things, putting on what I call your experimental hat. So testing and trying to see what's going to work for you. When I first came out, I was like, maybe I'm not going to be eating meat ever, but now I eat fish, right? And I found that fish works for me. There's some people who still may end up or may return back to meat, but at least they'll be educated about how meat is processed and how to choose or source a better source of it, right? So the long story short is I'm going to expose you and open you up to all these different avenues. And then we'll work together for you to test and try and see what truly resonates with you, heart, mind, body, spirit, and soul, right? Because at the end of the day, you have to run this race. You have to be the one. I'm on the sidelines. We're collaborating, but if it's not something that you can stick to on the longer term, then that's not the answer for you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's sort of, it sounds like part elimination diet because, for us that were meat eaters and drink milk, all that, and carbs and wheat, getting rid of that. And then, say 6 weeks later or whatever, go back, start to reintroduce, say the fish or whatever type of food, and see how your body reacts, how you feel after you do start consuming that product.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it puts us in touch with our bodies a little bit, just like noticing how the food actually impacts the way you feel.
Because at this point, I feel 100% on this, but I feel like our bodies are so kind of hypersensitive. It's so used to navigating toxins, and it's just always busy, working. We are not tapped in, right? And so when we can take all of that away, let the body calm down, let our systems reset, they can work properly and be able to sense things. So then when you introduce something, it's like, wait, no. But right
Yeah.
now, there's so much coming at it. It doesn't even register some of the stuff that's coming. It is so busy. But so we got to first calm everybody down, give everybody a break, let it get what it needs to reset. And then it can function so much more properly. It can be so much more sensitive and in tune. And it will tell you. Because initially, my first initial, I gave up beef, pork, and chicken. And I said it out loud to my nutritionist. I was like, there, it's out there, right? But I wanted to eventually give up dairy, but I didn't police myself. I didn't really buy dairy, but if I went somewhere and it had dairy in it, I didn't freak out. And so then I was eating fish, and then I was open to eating seafood. So that went on for about a year. As that year went on, every time I ate seafood, I looked at it differently. And so I just started to tell myself, I said, I think my body's saying that it doesn't want seafood.
Wow.
So I didn't get sick, but it was just something, it just didn't resonate. And so as the year went on, when I ate it, I go, I think this is the last time. And that's interesting to me because when I first thought about it, I was like, no, I love seafood. No. But as my body gave me signals, but when I said, that's it was nothing. Because my body had already told me, and I was already like, yeah, I don't think that's what we need to do. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You talked about like making sure it's something you can do and you can stick with, and everybody's tolerance for that is a little bit different. Everybody's journey and what their body actually needs is a little bit different. So, and I think I've said this before, but I'll say it again. When I started actually caring about my health and paying attention, had kind of a up. The three things is so funny because it's so similar to what you said. It was drink your water. So like paying attention to how much water I was drinking, move your body, literally just move every day, do something. Right. And then for me, like food wise, that was a really difficult one. So it was just stop fast food. Like I didn't go all the way to just a vegetable based diet, but just stop the fast food was a good place to start. And then again, like I noticed my body reacting, right? And appreciating the food it was being given more because it was homemade and I had spent time with it, those sorts of things. And naturally, I just started eating better foods even at home.
Yeah. It's an energy. Like the energy just, I don't even have words for it, but everything in life is energy. And the more you're in a place where you can sense and be in tune, the more you can just get on the path that's been meant for you. Yeah.
I have a question about the vegetables. Do you buy organic vegetables?
I do some. Now, I try to follow, I don't know if you ever heard of it, but there's a list called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. So I try to follow that. So that's kind of my first line of defense. And if I can't do that, I made a decision very early on to not overly frustrate myself with choices because I knew this had to, first of all, I know I live in a world where snacks are everywhere, ready for you, right? And so for me to navigate that environment with the least amount of resistance, I just decided I'm not going to just overly frustrate myself. So I'll choose the ones from the Clean 15 if available, if my budget is alignment with that. And then sometimes I don't because it's not in alignment and I'm just like, it's all good. When I say it's all good, so I just make a decision and release it.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's perfect because I think we can get really caught up in being too strict with ourselves.
Yeah. Right. And I've been at this a while, so I know I've done that. I actually have very intentionally managed myself to not do that. So, yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I wonder what my body would do when I have a bowl of Fruity Pebbles again. because I haven't had dairy or wheat or alcohol or sugar, caffeine
Well,
for 5 weeks.
oh wow, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I do eat meat.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved Fruity Pebbles and milk. I mean, I would come home from vacation
Right.
craving a glass of milk, and that would be the first thing
Mm-hmm.
that I would go to when I go into my kitchen is drink a nice cold glass of milk. But
Yeah.
I haven't. So anyway,
I tried to tell her to try oat milk. Have you done that yet?
no, I have not.
Okay.
No.
I enjoy it.
But if I buy oat milk, then I'll grab that Fruity Pebbles. You know, the Fruity Pebbles is not good. It's all processed and the
Yeah.
dye.
Dyes and sugars and yeah, it's
Yes.
it's a
But I
scientific
totally, I
experiment.
Right.
I totally get what you're doing, and
Yeah.
it's wonderful, wonderful.
Mm, yeah.
So
Yeah, and it is a
Awesome.
journey. I always share. I love to share that. As that first year went on, and I would check in with my nutritionist. If you looked at my progress, well, I'll say my progress kind of at home on a graph, you would see this. You would see this jagged edge. I was up, I was down, I was on, I was off. I'm off, I'm off, I'm up, I'm up, I'm on, I'm off. Right. But
Yeah.
when I checked in with my nutritionist, although my activity was up and down, right? Because I was figuring it out, my numbers were still trending down. So I share that because I didn't have to be perfect. I
Yeah.
didn't have to be perfect. I just had to keep going.
Yeah.
You're down, you're off. When are you getting back on? Okay, we're on, right? But again,
Right.
my weight, inflammation, low energy, all that trended down, and good energy, release of weight, all that was trending up. So again, I share that because you do not have to be perfect in this.
Yeah.
right.
And like you said, everything carries energy. So if we let ourselves feel that shame about it,
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
the energy as well.
For
And
sure.
just continue this downward spiral
Mm-hmm.
instead of giving yourself the grace to
Yes.
move through, get back on, and put your
Mhm.
energy where you want to go.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And there's always something to learn, from the ups and downs. I've learned so much. Like there was a moment where I found out that juice fasting is a way for me to really kind of reset really quick. And so I was trying to get back into a juice fast and I couldn't do it. It was just like not sticking. And so at that moment I discovered that it's tougher for me to juice fast when it's winter because it's cold. And I have learned that because I was set when I was like, what is the deal? And I would look at the juice and I would just feel cold and I would want something warm. So I was like, oh, well, maybe I can try more of a broth fast when it's winter if I want to reset that way. So, but I never would have learned that if I hadn't gone through that frustration.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
listening to your body. I
Yes,
love that.
everybody. Yeah.
Now, what's the name of your book, and how can people reach out to you?
Absolutely. It's Real Health Answers for Weight Loss After 40. The ultimate code to finally releasing the weight, reclaim your energy and joy. But first part, Real Health Answers for Weight Loss After 40. It's available on Amazon.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank
Great.
you. And if people are curious about the coaching program you have coming up next month, what's a way they can stay in contact with you and follow you so they know they're right there ready to go when that's available?
Absolutely. So my website and my socials are Rhonda on a Mission. So
Love it.
RhondaOnAmission.com, the website, Instagram, Rhonda on a Mission, Facebook, YouTube, Rhonda on a Mission. So, and I've got a couple of great resources on my website. So if they're signed up for a resource, they're on the list. So they'll be the first to get the invite to the new program launching next month.
Great.
Perfect. And we'll link all of that in the show notes. Thank you so much, Rhonda. Thank you for being here. It's been so much fun to have you here.
Absolutely. All right. Take care. I appreciate you guys.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Bloom with Tina and Kelsey. Your support truly means the world to us, and we're so grateful to have you as part of our blossoming community.
We hope you enjoyed this week's conversation and found inspiration in our discussions. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you love what you hear, please consider leaving us a review. Your feedback helps us grow and reach more listeners like you.
Join us next week for another exciting episode filled with insights, laughter, and growth. We can't wait to share it with you.
Keep glowing and see you soon.